Coming up on this episode of Courage Over Comfort with your hosts, Matt Logan and Beth Blanchard.
What did that look like, and how did you work through and come to that decision to leave a job that you worked specifically for? Your career was for that, and say, I got to put myself first and make some changes here.
It looked like suicidal ideation and an ER visit.
Yeah. Very simply,
really,
yeah.
It really was.
That makes perfect sense,
but
actually.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a draw a line in the sand. Like, something's got to change.
It looked like suicidal ideation and an ER visit. I came from an Italian-American family. There were not a whole lot of secrets.
Mm-hmm.
You can read the look on our face and tell how you're really feeling, even if you're not talking about it.
Sure.
Or what looks to other people like yelling is actually a conversation and working things out.
Yeah. Right.
Even you're not screaming at each other or disrespecting each other, but you're emphasizing a point.
Yeah.
You're passionate
Totally
about
culture.
your conversation.
You are.
And it's like you're driving down the road and you blow a tire. Mm-hmm. Well, what happens if you keep driving down the road?
Right.
Well, it gets worse.
Yeah.
Yep.
You have to acknowledge that problem.
Makes sense.
Whenever we can show others our wounds and how we took the steps to heal, that helps them. I think a lot of times too we're too tolerant of things, right? Like we just, that's just the way they're lashing out, and we're tolerant of it, or they're this, that, or the other thing, and we're just that's okay, that's okay, and then that builds and builds and builds, and then you have an explosion. That was a really cool conversation that we just had. Mental health,
Yes.
The radio industry, moving from out of state.
Major changes, lots of authenticity. I mean, it's very courageous, a lot of the things that she's been putting out there, going through it. I love the conversation. It was very inspiring, I think.
Absolutely. Cool hat, too.
She's got the coolest sense of style.
Yeah.
I could never pull that off in a million years.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't pull off some of the things I wear, but she's got her own style, and it's just awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, totally. Really, really cool person. Cool shirt too, right? That's just fun. I had a lot of fun. I'd never met her before, and I learned a ton. And the light went off for me in a lot of places and things like that. So, but we're going to come back and talk about that at the end of the podcast.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that.
Welcome one of my new favorite people, Val in Vogue.
Hey, welcome, Val.
Hi.
She's finally here. We've made it. Past
Cancellation
the snow day.
with, the good old weather that we have. I actually just got off of a plane.
Always
Sitting
too.
next to someone from Phoenix
Oh.
at my connection, and I'm like, it's snowing. Just FYI, it's snowing.
Were they sad?
Yeah, they're like, well, they said they spent 9 months in Bemidji, Minnesota.
Oh.
So
which
this
is
is
a ways
better,
up
right?
north. Yeah, this is better.
Okay.
So, that was nice that she wasn't totally foreign to it.
Okay.
70-some degrees or whatever, and then
That's funny.
here we go. Mm-hmm. And we were supposed to sit down the other day, but weren't able to do that. Mm-hmm. So thanks for rescheduling and getting out here again.
Let's do it. Everybody
We're
was
excited
safe.
to
That's
have-
what's most important.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and I was thinking that I'd get to relax, but I didn't.
Yep.
So you just move on to something else, right? And catch up on stuff. So that's good.
Keep on rolling. Well, I'm so glad that you came out here.
Yeah.
So I love what your story has been, and then it's out there, and we have weird connections that sort of intertwine and almost
We do.
at different times.
Right.
And it's cool to see how those things work together and within the same network of people. And
It's creepy.
Right.
How close Rochester can be sometimes.
yes, it's like you're walking alongside the same person for a year and a half, and you don't even know that they're there.
You might know them, you might not know
Right.
them, but yeah, we've known each other a little bit over the past since I've lived here.
Yes.
Because you kind of joined the station. I used to be on Quick Country 96.5 and Z-Rock 107.7.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I said, radio's not really for me.
Sure.
But Beth, in the midst of that, we kind of crossed paths there.
Yep.
She was working part-time. I was already there full-time, afternoons and middays.
Yeah.
And then, after that, she left, I left. Yeah.
I just want to interrupt for a second.
What?
Disclaimer right here. Zach is hanging out again, which I love having Zach
Yes.
here.
Oh, if
but
we
so don't
hear-
get frustrated.
Is that
But
my
we
eyeballs
have-
twitching right now?
We just this is real life.
Yes.
We're sitting down. It's real life. It's not polished. It's not
Yeah.
perfect. Just
Yes.
like me.
If we hear cute
And-
little boys, that's why.
Yeah, it's your husband probably, and maybe
Well,
Zach.
I mean, he's cute.
Yeah,
I think
Still
so.
counts.
You know.
yeah, it's good
But-
stuff. So there we go. That's a little sidebar.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
we can go again.
He's
We
keeping
appreciate
him.
the authenticity, and even in a professional setting, we're just real people with real lives, real situations, real problems, real successes too. And that's kind of what we're here to
Right.
talk about. Like, you've had an awesome journey, so walk us through. So you came from Pittsburgh
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
to Minnesota, and I'm sure maybe somebody gave you a disclaimer about the weather prior to coming here, which
They
can't
did.
be that worse.
Okay.
Much worse, right?
Well, right, but here's what people forget about my story. Radio, for those of you who don't know, everybody always asks, why do radio hosts travel everywhere? Why are they never like in the same place for more than 2 or 3 years? That's because the industry forces it.
Right.
I could do a whole separate podcast on that alone. But for lack of, for being concise, I had a pit stop in the cornfields of Illinois. That was my first on-air job, country morning radio.
Love that. That's awesome.
After I graduated college in Pittsburgh, I lived there, grew up there. Radio in Illinois, that's where it started. So when I was there, I lived there for about 3.5 years, and I had 3 winters under my belt. 3
Wow.
Midwest winters under my belt, I'll say that. So when everybody knew I was moving to Minnesota, they said, oh, it's going to be so much worse. It's going to be so much worse. I don't think so.
Then Illinois.
Yeah.
Well, it's not. Not
It's
that
not-
it, to
not than
me,
Illinois, yeah.
coming from
A little
Pittsburgh,
maybe, but-
right? To me, coming from Pittsburgh, Illinois and Minnesota's are
Yeah.
right there because
Yeah.
the wind chill is still a thing.
Yeah.
The drifts are still a thing.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
none of that was in Pittsburgh at all.
So I
Yeah.
just thought that popped into my mind. I might have to excuse myself because you mentioned country a couple of times, country
Right.
music.
But you
A
live in the
little bit-
country.
Well, yeah.
I don't like country music at all.
Well-
and I've tried.
Either did I.
I've tried.
Yeah.
Do you like country music?
No.
Okay, good. We can be
Not-
friends.
Like, not. I mean, I'll put it to you this way.
You took the paycheck, right?
I took
mean,
the
let's-
check, but here's the thing. I would much rather, and this is any artist, any genre of music.
Yeah.
I pay much more attention to the writing and the lyricism behind it. So to
like
me,
that.
Miranda Lambert, superb writer.
For sure. I
Love
saw
her.
her in concert, actually.
Yeah.
I tried. Like,
Right.
literally, I tried to like country.
That is really trying.
She is
Hopefully
one
my
of
mom's listening
Well,
and
right.
she'll be like appreciated,
yeah,
but
or Casey
it just can't
Musgraves.
do it.
To me,
Yes.
those two
She-
are two people that yes, I will still pay attention to, even though I've kind of left that world.
Yeah. Mhm.
because I appreciate the substance of what they're doing.
Yeah.
rock
Agreed.
and metal has always had my heart.
Slashing tires and all that stuff, right? Is what they do, and
That's what they want you to
sledgehammers.
think.
Oh, okay.
That's what they want you to
Shotguns
think.
or,
No, they're kicking
just
back
kidding.
at home with their 10 dogs.
Yeah.
Like and saving and Miranda I think has her own like rescue in Oklahoma
I've
or
heard that,
Texas.
yeah. Yeah.
That's what they're really doing.
They're
Yeah.
collecting their checks too,
They
like
are.
there is certain
They are
industry
because
standards
there's
there.
there's people in Nashville that are pushing them to
Rightfully
market
so,
to
though.
yeah.
They're
Yeah.
talented.
They are.
Just like everybody's talented.
Right.
And so you should be able to make a living with what you're talented in, right?
Well, how else do you do it?
Exactly.
And now a quick word from our sponsors.
Maple Springs Campground is sponsoring today's show.
Love this place.
Isn't that great?
Christmas in July they're talking about, but what about like actual July and Christmas? That's
Yeah.
what we need to figure out.
Yeah. Can we do that?
All year round they
I
have
mean-
stuff going on, right?
Yeah, there's an event coming up, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But a campground
Love
in
it.
Minnesota. It's a summer thing, and they have an event in January.
Why wouldn't
Isn't
you?
that great? They're
That's
creating a
fantastic.
community.
I love that.
Yeah. And so they also, what's unique about them is they have this place in the campground for horse people. And
Ah.
they're like a whole people, right?
They are.
My
They have
mom's
their
one
own
of those
group.
people. She's actually camped down there with her horse. Wow. So they have this area set
they
up
have
where you can
sleeping
have
bags?
horses. That's a good question. I'll have to ask. I'll
know.
get back to you on that.
We'll have to look.
Right. But what they do, they have great hiking and fishing, actually trout fishing, like it's known trout fishing down there.
Love trout.
And Maple Springs Campground has Sunday worship services from, what's that big holiday, Memorial?
Yes.
From there all the way to Labor Day, all summer.
You don't even need to leave.
You don't need to leave. There's a great
fantastic.
store there. They
Everything
have
you need.
tenting. They have full RV hookups
Love that.
and seasonal. Like you
totally
can
would
park
be the
your
RV
RV.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Someone was just telling me what they did this summer about tenting, and I'm like, yeah, I like running water in a shower.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the RV myself.
Yeah. But if you don't have an RV,
Yeah.
they have showers free.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
So you
Wi-Fi.
don't smell.
So if
you
you
get your church.
Yeah.
You have a lot of fun. I mean, volleyball, the dog park. Like, you never need to leave.
Exactly.
Love this
And
place.
there's this little playground. I've possibly played.
You're the reason they have signs.
They have signs because of me. Absolutely. But it's like some of the people that are there, the seasonals, they talk about the ponies that are there. There's two cute
so
little
cool.
ponies. Like they're starting a petting zoo or something, I swear. I don't know.
It
Not
sounds
really,
like it.
but
We got
it's
dogs,
really cool.
horses, ponies. What else could you possibly need?
Well, trout fishing, like I had mentioned before, there's a lot of people that go down there for that. So you need to eat.
This is true.
So
I could go down there, set up shop, and just meet the people that have the dogs and the
Yep.
trout, and then I'd be
maybe
set,
even borrow a
right?
horse for an afternoon.
I don't know. It
Yeah.
sounds like a fun idea, though.
Maple Springs Campground, look them up.
Yeah, let's get booked
Give 'em-
already for summer.
Give them the website.
What do you got? We got Maple Springs at campground.com. That's maplespringscampground.com. You can call them if you're one of those type, 507-951-8876. That's 507-951-8876.
And again, thank you, Maple Springs
Yeah,
Campground,
thank
for
you.
believing in what we do.
We love it. Can't wait to be there.
KFG Coaching is sponsoring this episode of the podcast.
Is sponsoring the podcast and really people's lives. That's what she does.
Absolutely. She is a mindset coach.
Yes.
Krista is her name. And incredible person.
Totally. Amazing
Yeah,
person.
I've been able to chat with her several times, and I love that she is able to bridge the gap, right? When you go into a business, employees don't really want to talk to HR about certain things because that's within the organization.
Right.
And she bridges that gap really
Yeah.
well, like extremely well, between the employees and like in HR departments.
Yes, absolutely.
And just brings out what some of the issues might be or whatever else. It's one of the talents that she
Like
has.
communication wizard.
Yes.
That's totally what it is. And bridging the gap is like putting it lightly, but helping to get people on the same page, feel comfortable talking to her and relaying that information to the other side with intentionality and,
Yeah.
really good communication. I think it's a win-win for everyone. And
In a
great
respectful
resource.
way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's not like you did this wrong or you did that wrong or whatever else. It's actually just finding good solutions.
Right.
Yeah.
From a business perspective, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
Your employees are more productive. Your business is more productive when you get some of that out of the way. That's exactly what she does. Makes all that smooth over, gets
Yep.
people back on track.
Exactly. It's
perfect.
And what's great too, because she's like a business coach. She also is a certified trainer. Like
Yeah.
this is what she does. And she has a lot of, what I really love about it, she has a lot of personal experience that she brings to the table, right? She's
Yeah.
not just one of those people that runs her business from the outside and just says, this is how you do it.
Do as
like
I
she
say.
has exactly. She has that experience, that personal experience
Yes.
to really make that happen and work and bridge those gaps that we talked about. But she also does personal coaching, like
Right.
people all over the world.
And it's the experience and the trust that you can get with her. Not
Yeah.
just get, but you feel right
Yeah.
away. And I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the impact and the change that
Yeah.
opens the doors for businesses to be more successful and people to be more successful because they have someone to guide them.
Absolutely.
For sure.
We need to look her up. I
Yes.
want to look her up.
You've got to go, internet, wherever you are, hit up kfgcoaching.com. She has got all of the information that you need to get to where you need to go and get connected with her from a business or personal standpoint. Either way, it's a good investment.
Yeah. I'm thinking I might, like literally, I might contact her.
Right.
Yeah.
Get over there,
It's brilliant.
kfgcoaching.com. That's all you need to do. She'll take care of the rest.
Thank you, KFG Coaching.
Yes, we thank you, appreciate you, and wish you the best of luck with all of our listeners here.
Absolutely.
And now, back to the episode.
It takes a lot. So this is coming out the end of this month, the Taylor Swift documentary.
I cannot wait to see that.
I'm really
I'm
excited to
yes.
see it. So I have seen
Who's
her.
Taylor Swift?
I know, never heard of her.
He's a Swiftie fan club. No, I mean, she has a very authentic story. And as much crap as you can say about her, as much as you can say about everyone else, I really think that no one can say that anyone else has really done a huge
No,
turn. Like,
she-
I mean, Darius Rucker, sure. Okay. there's
She's
a
earned
flip,
her
but-
credibility.
Yeah.
She's absolutely earned her credibility.
Yeah, totally agree
Yeah.
with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, like Country and I, like I said, her words are what get to me
Mm-hmm.
that, whether style of music or, 1,500 screaming girls behind you, like, she's got a really good point.
Right.
She's like, man, if you don't like it, kick it at the door, turn around, walk away. Like,
Right.
I have no room for this in my life. Like, good for you.
Well, right. And I'm not a parent, but if I was, I would much rather my little daughter look up to somebody like her
Yes.
than someone half naked.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
My opinion.
I have no
Totally
idea
agree.
who you're talking about.
could be
Maybe a couple ideas.
could be
Yes.
any number of pick
Yeah.
your name out of the hat. I
Right.
mean, but
Really,
that's their
really.
artistic flair.
Sure, absolutely.
And
yeah,
it's also-
and art is
right.
Yes, for sure.
It's so
Yeah.
subjective.
It is.
And I think that's what made radio really hard
Which
for
is-
me.
yeah.
Yeah, sure.
There's a
Just-
lot of pressure. So talk about, like, so you went from Pittsburgh to Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
You went back to Pittsburgh,
Nope.
Illinois to Minnesota.
Yep. Yeah.
It's a natural
Did you walk?
transition, right?
I wish. No. Would have
Sled?
seen more of the land that way.
Sled?
Right.
Toboggan, actually.
So did you come right to Quick Country? Was that the job offer?
That was the job posting literally said Town Square Media KWWK afternoon host. Done. It said looking for an afternoon host to fill 2 to 6 full time. Send us your demo,
Sure.
audio resume, and your actual written resume.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. But I put my name in that hat, and all it was a country job at 1st. And I wanted to like leave where I was in Illinois because I was starting to see some things about that industry that I wasn't too keen on.
Sure.
Even then, and this was 3.5 years into it, and I thought maybe if I just go somewhere else, it'll be that much better.
Grass
Later, I found
greener.
out opposite. But I'm just
yeah.
saying. But when I started talking to Jeff Cecil, who might watch this, so hi Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
He was
Hi,
very
Jeff.
but he was very kind, and he was the one that took that information that I sent and gave me the call back.
Sure.
And said, well, and he said, so I see a lot of digital stuff on your resume. At that time, I ran my own like metal blog and podcast.
Cool.
But I wasn't in rock radio yet. I had no experience in it just yet, but I was dying to get it because I was like, man, if I get into that, I'll really love it and I'll sink my teeth into it.
Yeah.
Which ended up happening, but only because Jeff gave me the opportunity. So the country job, yeah, that might have been more marketable, but he said, hold on, you do these other things too?
We could use that.
Wait a second. He goes, I need a midday person on our rock station. Also, can you track it? Pre-tape, for those who don't know. And then we blog daily.
What's
and
a tape?
But he
Eight.
said, right, we call it taping ahead.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I'm teasing.
I do love how
I-
no one really understands that
Exactly.
term anymore, though.
Exactly.
I don't know
You
another
talk-
term.
You talk to somebody though, even in their 30s,
Yeah.
like early 30s, and they don't like tapes, cassette tapes.
I just turned 30 a week and a half ago.
right? But
So
unless
Happy
you're in the
belated
industry,
birthday.
Thank you.
unless you're in the industry,
Right, you might not know.
You
Well,
don't
because if
know,
I say voice
'cause-
tracking, I say taping because I think most people understand that, and that voice tracking is
Yeah,
beyond
no,
them.
exactly. Right.
So I
yeah.
say taped ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
yeah.
and
I just like to be clear in a different, goofy kind
if you
of
don't
way.
understand, be kind, please rewind.
Right.
We're just not going to get
Blockbuster,
anywhere
baby.
with this conversation.
Blockbuster with the red, the obnoxious
Yes.
orangish red Good Burger tape.
Captain
That
Marvel.
was-
Did you see that movie?
I didn't see Captain Marvel. No.
Have you seen Captain Marvel?
Yes, of
Okay.
course.
I'm not really a
So
Marvel.
Okay,
Wow.
can I just do a really quick side thing and say that's who I was for Halloween? So,
Oh yeah, I actually think I
yeah.
saw that on Facebook.
Not only seen the
No.
movie, but
Appropriate.
literally own the costume.
Appropriate choice.
That Blockbuster, like that was huge. People like
That was how I
they
spent Friday
laughed
nights.
like
Yeah.
crazy when that scene came in. So yeah, it was good. So good memories.
Yeah.
So you get there, you're
Right.
gonna do country. He's like, why not do this other
he's-
role, right?
He said, we do need that position filled, but I'm taking a look at your resume and I'm hearing your voice, and I think we could see you doing some other things as well. Would you want to do that? And I said, hell yes, I want to do that.
yes.
So, long story short, we went back and forth for about a month and a half before it was solidified. And then I moved here summer 2016.
Wow.
So, yeah, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah.
And I'm not even in radio anymore. I'm
Right.
not even here because I'm not in what originally got me here
Yeah.
anymore, and I stayed.
Yeah.
But
Why is that?
because Pittsburgh, unfortunately, and this isn't going to be a surprise to anybody from there watching this. For me, economically, it was not feasible. Mm-hmm. There was not as many opportunities there
Sure.
within livable wage.
Yeah.
Right? Which
Yeah,
I know
this is a
everybody
growing
complains.
area.
Everybody in here, everybody here complains about housing, and I get it.
Yeah.
And it is expensive. However,
Not
Pittsburgh,
as, yeah.
10 times worse, especially given what me and my husband did for a living. My husband's a laborer, and I wanted to do radio at the time, and the competition was
Fierce.
it was more cutthroat there because the people who have been doing radio in a market like Pittsburgh, a top 25 market, they've been doing it for 20, 15,
Sure.
30 years. They don't
Yeah.
leave those seats.
Yeah. No kidding.
You might be hanging on to like a part-time position for
Yeah.
years before
Yeah.
you get your toe in the water. And
That is
that's
so true.
and when I realized that, I said, no way.
Yeah.
But here,
Plus, Rochester's cool.
it is. I enjoy it. I have found my way to make it fun.
And your
Yeah.
own way, which is,
Yeah.
I think that a part that's cool.
Yeah, I still go to the local shows that happen here just because I like to be at shows, and I like to have a drink and watch live music. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
what I like to do
Yeah.
for
sure.
fun. And
Have you told her about what we're doing in March?
We haven't talked yet.
Yeah,
No.
we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Don't
Yes.
let me forget. But some
Okay.
live music reminded me, we just
Yeah.
got the deal done today. So.
oh, cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but that's why.
Yeah.
I'm here, and thankfully, even when I left radio, there were still other economic opportunities in Rochester, which allowed me to afford to live here.
Sure.
When I left radio, I said, okay, I have some digital skills. Maybe I could do office work, computer work. Well, okay, cool. That ended up getting me at a local music school
Yeah.
and running their front desk for
Yeah.
a little over a year. And then I said, I might want different hours and a little bit of a bump in pay. And that led me to Mayo Clinic. But
Sure.
because Rochester is Rochester, I was able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you hustle in Rochester,
Yeah.
you can make a living.
You can. It
There's
is
a
the-
lot of different things.
Yeah, it is the easiest place in the world to network.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I cannot tell you how
There's
many.
1,400 a day, I swear.
There really is. Just
all
well,
the
not
time.
for take away the networking groups that are organized.
Yeah.
it's just easy to guilt by association to know somebody
Sure.
Yeah,
who
right.
knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. It's with. I mean,
The biggest small town.
it really is.
Yeah.
I feel like I know half the town already, and I've only been here, for going on 4 years this summer.
It's
But-
so true. I mean, as big as it is, and I think, of course, like minds think alike for sure. But I went to the Living Leading with Purpose event.
Yeah.
The chamber did the other day.
Yeah.
And there was 400 women, and the coolest
Right.
part was seeing the last 10 years of my life, essentially, with people of impact in all of these different areas.
Yeah.
Like Beckham, when I was building this business, this is a person that was in my life, in my circle in that time. And, not for a negative
Right.
reason, but, they continue to build. And I think for sure, women's business growth is tremendous over the last couple of years in Rochester.
Right.
So,
And you all have the same interests. You all have the same goals. And you live in the same area. You can relate on a number of things.
yeah. Totally.
And it just makes it easy.
Yeah, and what I love about your story too so far, getting into it, is you just figure it out, right? You just keep
I didn't have a
figuring it
choice.
out. Yeah, and that's great. That's what
well,
what it's
technically
about.
you do, though. So let's
Well,
talk about that a
exactly.
little bit,
That's-
okay?
I felt like I didn't.
But that's
From
your
the-
mindset.
Yeah. And I think that is, a very something that I think as well. What other choice did I have? And, there is always the do nothing choice, wallow, until you're nothing, whatever. But you did very much make a choice and very intentionally. And I think that would be awesome if you want to talk about it. But, coming to this recognizing of here's where I'm at. This isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I have some things I need to do for myself. What did that look like? And how did you work through and come to that decision to leave a job that you worked specifically for? Your, career was for that. And, say, I got to put myself first and make some changes here.
It looked like suicidal ideation and an ER visit.
Yeah. Very
I mean,
simply.
really.
Yeah.
It really was.
That makes perfect sense,
But
actually.
yeah,
It
I mean,
really
that's like
was.
a draw line in the sand.
Say that
Something's
again.
got to
It
change.
looked like suicidal ideation and an ER visit.
Yeah.
It really did. And that's public
We're going to
information.
caption that. I mean,
And I think it's so like brave to like put that out there because
Yeah.
That's
some
public
people are
information.
embarrassed about,
No.
even thinking that. And I
Yeah.
think that where there is a difference between ideation and intention, but both need to be taken just as seriously.
When I was in the ER, they actually told me we look at ideation, suicidal ideation, as a sprained ankle.
Yeah.
It's you're not all the way there, but it's a step there, and it still needs to be tended to.
Yep.
Right. Oh, totally. I mean, it's like walking on a ledge. You're like, you could still fall off no matter how well balanced or careful you are. All it takes is the wrong circumstance and a slip and, whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
No. And I love that you, put it out there that was an intentional choice for you to go, get help. And, you did what? Have to put it on the back burner, your job for a little bit.
Thank God for FMLA. But really, I had a lot of trouble rectifying what I had gotten myself into to what my personal morals and values were.
Sure.
Sometimes they clashed. And when you deal with 5.5 years of that, on top of a parent's divorce you never dealt with, on top of living in 3 different states within a span of 5 years and adjusting to those cultural aspects and those regions and adjusting to all of that within a very short period of time, I didn't see a therapist. I didn't go to a doctor. I trucked it because I had to survive. I literally, at that point, okay, you're on your own. You have to show up at work. You have to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And at that point, I didn't know what else to do except try to stick it out at that job. Until I came home and I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. Started bawling and I wanted to reach for pills. And at that point, my husband just kind of looked at me and said, this is not going well. Like, but he knew that I was not having an easy time with work. That had been going on for months, if not years, even then.
Yeah.
But when I started to reach for pills, that's where it's another level. That it hadn't gotten to.
Yeah.
And then even after that night, a week later, I was still working, acting like nothing had happened until I had like this, I call it a panic attack, 10 minutes before I was going to go on the air one afternoon.
Wow.
And I just was sobbing because I was writing down, we call it show prep. I was writing down what I was going to do for talk about that day.
Yeah.
And I got about halfway through the page and I just started sobbing and shaking. It was like someone turned on a switch.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it was then, but it was an anxiety attack. And the only thought in my head at that moment was, I can't perform today.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it can feel like that when you're entertained. You can feel like a court jester.
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit.
right.
Absolutely.
And
you
I
kind of like set yourself aside, right, and you perform,
right.
Yeah.
It's what I do a lot of, right?
Yeah.
Like I speak a lot, and you
today,
kind of have to do that some days,
right? And that day, I just said no. I cannot do this physically or mentally, and I just broke down. And a coworker happened to walk in while I was sobbing and took me to St. Mary's. And the rest is kind of history there. And it is public information. I've written about it and I've talked about it. But
and thank you for doing that.
Yes.
Right, like that's huge because that whenever we can show others our wounds and how we took the steps to heal, that helps them.
I don't know another way. I joke about this, but it's the truth. I came from an Italian-American family. There were not a whole lot of secrets. Like you can read the look on our face and tell how you're really feeling, even if you're not talking about it. Or what looks to other people like yelling is actually a conversation and working things out.
Yeah. Right.
Even though you're not screaming at each other or disrespecting each other, but you're emphasizing a point.
Yeah.
You're passionate
Totally
about
culture.
your conversation.
You are. But sometimes when you show yourself that, you have a better understanding of where that other person is coming from.
Right.
You have
right,
an understanding.
for sure.
You have a better understanding of what you did that hurt them, or vice versa. Whichever.
Yeah, with respect, like you said.
Right. Because I had those moments with my dad. I had those moments with my mom.
Yeah.
With him though, I was always allowed
Shoot,
to.
I still have those moments with my parents.
Right.
You use the word had.
Well, I say had because I don't see him as much physically.
Sure.
Yeah.
I miss him.
Yeah.
I miss my family back home, of course,
Yeah,
every day.
Yeah.
But, I did what I did for my family.
Yes.
And, you guys know the rest. But I think coming up in an Italian-American family, because I was allowed to be that expressive and to be that demonstrative and emphasize what was really going on here,
Yeah.
you're that much closer to a resolution.
Yeah, and that's almost, I was just going to say, that's almost like therapy, right?
Do you
like,
think,
kind of is.
you're not holding everything in to have to tell a therapist
kind
or
of
whatever.
is.
You're getting it out there.
Right. So
Do you
I
think
don't
you would
know
have
any
come
different.
to where you are now had that not been your upbringing? Do you think that's a
I don't
factor
think
in
so.
why people aren't feeling like they can express themselves?
I do, because I think, and
That's a good point.
I do think so, because I love the Midwest. Don't get me wrong. I do call Minnesota home.
Oh, sorry.
I know. But but you bring up a point. The
Yeah.
passive aggressive stuff,
It's
very
real.
hard for me.
Yeah.
Very hard for me, because I don't have any bones about, telling somebody I'm upset because of X or
Right.
because of Y.
Yeah.
Here,
Yeah,
you
right.
might
It's
be a little bit like too much. Like
Right.
that Minnesota nice kind of
cannot
thing.
handle it. And this
Yeah.
wasn't just Minnesota, this was Illinois too.
Yeah.
Okay.
To me, that's why I say
We're just
this is a
nicer than them.
Midwest. This, to me, I think of it as a Midwest thing.
Yeah.
And so in the business world, when I realized that my superiors or coworkers were kind of like, she's talking with her hands, and what do I do with this?
Sure.
She's aggressive.
I was like, well, they're intimidated.
Yeah.
And of course, I don't mean that.
Yeah.
But that's how they perceive it. So I was
Sure.
like, I got to tone this down. And this is completely new for me.
Which then suppresses
It does.
Yeah.
And that's why I have
your
so many.
personality.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
That's why I have so many people, especially in this area, say the nice things that you have said. Like, thank you for speaking about it. Thank you for saying something. Thank you for doing something. Thank you for encouraging me to do the same.
Right.
Thank you for showing it's okay to do the same, because in my house, we didn't talk about things like this.
Yeah.
I hear that all the time.
So sad. I mean,
Yeah.
and we've talked about this before too, with a lot of the, mental health things that you had put out there, but I had put out something about bullying today even, and had, a number of people message me, which was totally fine. But it was like they did not want to comment publicly because they don't
Some
want to
people,
speak
yeah.
out. They, and that's, again, they're all fine things, but, it's part of the collective nature of the community that we're in, where they're like, okay, I have a comment, but I don't want to say it out loud. Like, I don't want to have too strong of an opinion about this or what have you. But I think that's part of the thing with mental health issues, especially, that people are like, well, it's just kids being kids, or it's just stress, or it's just, I'm like, as soon as we say just, it diminishes the value and completely like stomps on those feelings that it's not okay to express any, true emotion about it.
Yeah, there has to be a balance.
Yeah.
Like anything. But I do think that because of the way I grew up, it was definitely different than maybe the way most people grow up. I don't know if I would have felt that way had I been raised here. Maybe not. But that's what I'm finding, is that there's like a regional difference, just because there's an ethnic difference.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of Italians around here.
Right.
Yeah.
And
right.
that's fine, but I'm just saying, I think maybe that's why they're not used to seeing or feeling or behaving
Yeah.
the way that I'm accustomed to.
And I think everyone in just their own situation. I mean, obviously we're in a healthcare community.
Which makes it a little bass-awkward, doesn't it?
I was just going to
Because
say,
you would
like, that you would think that because of the resources available, that there would be more, and, maybe I'm not seeing something, but I feel like, especially in a workplace, for example, that it is not as common or openly talked about, or, resources provided. And this also goes with the kids level, where, what are they being given that helps to support their choice to remove themselves from a classroom or situation, for an anxiety attack or, things like that. I mean, we're not enabling our kids to be able to make choices to make better health decisions for their mental health. nor talking about it. I think that's a big miss, like in our system right now.
I think a lot of times too we're too tolerant of things, right? Like we just, that's just the way they're lashing out, and we're tolerant of it, or they're this, that, or the other thing, and we're just that's okay. That's okay. And then that builds and builds and builds, and then you have an explosion.
Right. Or, well, that should be your cue to kind of say, everything good.
Right.
Let's quality check.
Everything good.
Let's
like, you good? I do that with my colleague. At Mayo, we call them colleagues, I'm learning. I do that with my... But my coworkers, if I hear like a loud... from any of them, I'm like, oh, they're having a rough day.
Right, get it
out. I'll just kind of like nudge them and be like, you good? And they'll be like, today's just sucks.
Yeah.
And I'll be like,
yeah, and it's okay that today just sucks.
Yeah.
Right.
But don't like...
but if you get too many of those
without
attention...
What's that saying? Like, did the whole day suck, or was it just 5 minutes that you're milking all day?
Right.
We have to recognize that, too.
Yeah.
We can't take that, problem and amplify it by dragging it out all day.
Right.
because
either.
years or months of that being unattended to could lead to...
That's the problem.
explosion.
I mean, it's not whether or not it's 5 minutes or all day even. It's the problem is it attended to? Is it addressed? Is it acknowledged? I mean, you don't have to carry around a little basket of flowers, for every minute. I mean, the people need to be responsible for their own choices and reactions for sure.
Yeah.
But I do think overall, as a person, I mean, you're responsible for saying, hey, I need help, or what have you. But it's also great to have somebody else be able to recognize even a nudge that says, hey, you okay? You need to go grab a cup of coffee or a walk or whatever,
It's
just
like
quality control mental check. I mean, that's cool.
And it's like you're driving down the road and you blow a tire. Well, what happens if you keep driving down the road?
Right.
Well, it gets worse.
Yeah.
Yep.
You have to acknowledge that
It
problem.
makes that sound.
Right.
Not that I've done it or anything.
Right. None of us have.
No.
But, you blow the tire, you keep driving, you start wrecking a whole lot of other things, and things become unsafe and all that stuff. You recognize the problem. You can either call a tow truck, you can try to change the tire.
Right.
There's a lot of solutions to that one problem.
Yeah.
You can buy a new car. That's a solution.
Expensive one, yeah.
Right. But
you can't buy a new brain.
No, but
usually.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, though. But you have to recognize the problem and not just put it behind you. I mean, you might have to put it behind you for a little while.
Yeah.
And say, I'm going to address this later. But you have to address it later, right?
Right.
Can't just kick the can down the road.
Too, like you brought up the point of the sprained ankle.
That's literally how an ER nurse described it to me.
Yeah.
I think that's genius, because you can have a muscle strain, you can have exhaustion, fatigue, right? These are all symptomatic of too much of something. It's not quite, detrimental yet at that point, but maintenance could take care of all that stuff. So there's two roads to go down. One, making sure that at that crucial
little bit
tow
of ice
truck
here,
point,
stretch it there.
Yeah, that you're both hitting it when it needs to happen. If you blow the tire, you need to make a change. You need to do something dramatically different. Or, the flip side is, make sure you get your oil changed, make sure your gas is filled up, keep that mental health, day to day. I mean, you can't expect people to go day in and day out at a job that they hate and survive mentally, but you made a change. You had to, because you extended.
I had
extended the
overextended
capacity
myself
for that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And we have to get better at recognizing that in ourselves, I think, and we also have to
Totally.
get better at recognizing that in someone else, right? And then that's where I say the tolerance thing. Like you okay? You did the nudge thing with your coworker, colleague,
Whichever. Yeah. I use them interchangeably.
right? And so you didn't just put it aside and ignore it or whatever else, but you addressed it, even in a little way. And that's kind of what I mean about the tolerance thing too, is like, if you ignore it, that's tolerating that. And something's wrong. Someone is not healthy. You got to do something about it. You can't tolerate it. We got to get better at that.
Yeah.
But what I want to say too is I get it. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to recognize it sometimes in yourself. It's hard to recognize it sometimes in other people. We
Yeah.
ignore things with, I don't have time for that today or whatever
Right.
else. But man, and I'm saying this for myself too, we need to get better at it. We need to get better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I'll get off my soapbox.
self-recognition in any regard is hard, right?
Yeah.
Like, this outfit looks phenomenal, you know, and like you go out in the world and people are like, what was she thinking? You know, but there is a point, I think, that
That's where
people
I just say I'm colorblind.
yeah
Sorry,
people
I'm
start to
colorblind.
like, you know, mull over the things that they don't want to see, you know, like we're in like a duct tape society, like, or, you know, like Big Daddy, like throw the newspaper over and it's not there, you know. We absolutely have to find like more ways to just clean up the stuff, right? Just deal with the spilt milk. Literally,
yeah.
it'll take 5 minutes to deal with it now, or God forbid you wait longer than that and it smells like mold everywhere, right?
Right.
I mean, that is like the actual like physical things that go on if you don't, you know, address those things.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So what kind of things did you have to go through in that like working process as you were, you know, quote, finding yourself like, okay, I've recognized here this need for a change. What do I do now? Like, how did you take that first step besides, you know, going to the hospital, right? That's
Yeah.
the big part, but that next step after.
The next step after was, I don't know. I think when you go through something like that, you feel a little bit drained.
Yeah.
Kind of like
Oh,
a zombie.
For sure.
So for at least, I would say for a week or two after, I didn't feel like I was really making my own decisions. I was kind of just like,
Jesus, take the wheel.
I had loved ones around me that were kind of acting on my behalf.
Yeah.
Sure.
And helping me get into this outpatient group therapy, you know, and helping coordinate that. They were really more so doing that for me while
That's
I just
awesome.
kind of like laid around like,
Right.
"Oh, okay, here I am now.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge to have, you know, that
Yeah.
kind of support for sure. And I mean,
But it's not easy for them either.
Yeah.
And that's what sucks.
No.
and that's super hard
Yeah.
to like figure out what doing. We're making decisions about your life now,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it needs both parties. Somebody that's willing
Mm-hmm.
to allow for someone to help them,
Mm-hmm.
which is one hard part, and then the other people to be willing to, you know, make
Mm-hmm.
adjustments on your behalf to change things.
Yeah.
What was that time frame like? Right. I mean, from that moment of the ER to when you started to feel a little bit better about more control of your thoughts and some of that. What was
4.5
that?
to 5 months.
Really?
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. I think the harder part was admitting that the industry I had dumped time and money into
Yeah.
was not mine.
Wasn't helping.
No
it was
longer
not-
serving you. Yeah.
It wasn't serving me. It was not conducive to my mental health. That was the hardest thing.
Can I ask you why? What do you think?
Lots of reasons.
Yeah.
The bureaucratic, subjective nature.
Sure. Okay. Just simply because it's big business.
It's big business, but it's also very image conscious. It's also very subjective. And, you know, what I can say is you were kind of expected to fit a particular mold,
Okay.
whether that was natural to you or not.
Sure.
And when you're young and eager to please,
Yeah.
getting your career off the ground,
Yeah.
you want to do anything and everything, and you'll break your back. You'll break your back just to make someone happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you beat yourself up 10,000 times,
Yeah.
and you have somebody in a position of authority saying, "Still not good enough. Still not good enough.
Yeah.
Still not good enough," or "Nope, nope, 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 nope."
Yeah.
Well, you go through 5.5 years of that, and you start to question a lot of things.
Right.
Oh gosh.
Because
yeah.
you think you're pleasing them, and then it's still no.
Sure.
You think you're bringing them a great idea, but nope, it ends up being a case of egoism and chauvinism that shuts that down.
Sure. Absolutely.
So radio is male dominated.
Yeah.
I think I ran into that a few times. I think the subjective nature of it is more the umbrella of what all of that fell under, because the business decisions they were making were in align with that.
yeah.
Sure.
We want you to fit the mold of what we think a country DJ should be,
Okay.
what we think the lifestyle of that demographic should be.
Sure.
Sure.
Same with the
Like
rock
on
demographic.
and off the air.
Right.
Do they bring like information, statistics,
Of course
and what
not.
that
A photograph?
Yeah,
Of course
so it's
not.
a feeling.
Of course
Yeah.
not. It's
Yeah,
it's they say I've sat in meetings before where they'll say testing shows blank.
Yeah,
And I'll say, "Can I see?
yeah,
Has that changed?
Sure.
Has what like we keep track of analytics daily on social media. Why can't I track what's working and what's not the same way in radio?"
Yeah.
Now, was some mystical Oz-like figure doing this and doing it for all the radio stations of America? Maybe, but did I see it? No.
Yeah.
You haven't seen the mystical Oz?
I know. Well, I mean, really, was there some?
Well, think about that.
Yeah.
Like, walk through that for a minute. You have radio. You're blasting it out there for anybody within range to hear it. And how do you get that feedback? Okay. You get the feedback, in my opinion, you get the feedback by people obviously calling in or not. You get the feedback by people showing up at events or not.
Those were the most fun parts of the job.
For sure.
By the way.
Yeah.
So if any of you did give me that time, thank you.
Yeah.
That was the most fun part of the job. That
Yeah.
I never had a problem with.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not every DJ could handle that either because there
No.
are
That's
some.
so true.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah.
But for me, that was the most fun.
Yeah.
What went on behind the scenes, not fun.
Yeah.
But so keep
Yeah.
walking through the statistics of radio. You would literally have to have people call and take these surveys or email
Right.
or do all those things. You like social media is so different because obviously that's just easy to track. You go on your computer, boom, you got a IP address. You've got all these different things that you can track the analytics with. Easy. I mean, not for me, but the software
You
has it all
can't.
handled.
It's there.
But-
It's for your consumption.
Right, but people would have to physically do something in order for you or the radio station to understand and know what was working when what wasn't
Right.
working.
Somebody
right?
somewhere saw something and made a decision, and we never saw.
Right. So it's
evidence
based
of
on
it.
a feeling.
Yes,
I
it
mean,
could have been.
There's a little
I have
bit.
no proof otherwise.
No, and I had a business
Right.
in a retail location in a manufacturing, and you knew what times to be open and what not to be open. I mean, yes, but was it perfect? No, obviously not. So you kind of had an idea.
Data is subjective though too. I mean, even with that, so you depend on the listener calling or whatever, but there's a multi-channel approach to looking at what those decisions might be, and somebody thinks that maybe we'll get higher if we do this,
Right.
but who knows what it's based on. I mean,
That's
I do
not legal here yet.
Yeah.
I don't think.
there's so many ways to look at things, so
Yeah.
it's hard, to say, but either way, I think at the end of the day, whether it was an actual thing or not, I mean, perception is 9/10 of it, and
For
that was
sure.
hard of it.
having an environment that you can't,
They expected
be in.
you as a host to trust that, and that was a big part of the problem.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you, like you said, you were younger and you kind of trusted that at first. And
At first,
understood. Yeah.
until
Later
I
would
was
understand.
until I was being asked to do things that I thought was like an episode of Jackass, and I said no way.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you get, well, why wouldn't you want to be a part of this? Because no.
Yeah.
Because the answer is no, and that should
Yeah.
be all it is. I'm still a
Yeah.
human.
Right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, yeah, I might be your subordinate, but I'm still a human.
Right.
And if
Right.
I don't want to go over to somebody and upset them
Right.
for my personal safety and because of my personal values,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't think a label or a title or a job position dictates that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
And I
Totally.
ran into a lot of people who disagreed with that.
Sure.
Why?
Why what?
I mean, why? What did you
Yeah.
hear back from people like with the disagreement? Because I think it's a really good point. I mean, one, you're young, and hear me out for a second. You're saying like I'm trying to do all these things or whatever, but you do draw the line somewhere, and I do
Yeah.
think that people will continue with the fear of losing their job or what have you.
I went through that too.
They won't push like so. Is the disagreement in that you said something or that
Yeah.
you stood up for it because
Usually.
they thought it was wrong or they wouldn't have done it themselves maybe.
I would say 6 times out of 10 it was because I said something. The rest it was because egos.
Sure.
But that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, here's where I want to circle around, and I think we might be going down a rabbit hole that I don't know if we want to go down, but the thing that I think we're, as a society in the United States, and I speak for the United States, I don't know what it's like around the world. There was such a time that your job was so important that you could not quit. You could not upset the boss. You could not do any of those things. You couldn't talk back. You did jump as high as they told you to, period.
It's still like that in some ways.
I think it's like that because we were wired that way. And I'm not saying that was wrong for that time, but now, like, where I want to circle back to is what I said before, is hustling in Rochester. This is a city where you hustle, you will make a good living. And it's not going to be the same as what I make a living at and what Beth makes a living at, and, you know, all these different things. If you hustle, you're going to make a living, and it can be a pretty good living. You're going to have to hustle. Right. Anything you do, you're going to have to hustle to make a good living.
But what are you going to tolerate and what aren't you?
Exactly. So you have to understand that, okay, option A didn't work. That's okay. I'm going to be happy over here. I'm going to make $1.50 less an hour or whatever, however you gauge that in your world.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be happy, right? And I think that's where we have to focus. We have to focus on being happy, because if we hustle, we're going to make a living. And if we're passionate about what we're doing, it's not going to feel like hustling.
Right.
But we're going to have to hustle.
Well, there's opportunity costs involved.
That's a good way to put it, opportunity cost. But we're not in a society anymore. We're not in a society. I mean, we're not. There's a lot of opportunities everywhere.
Right.
You don't have to be pigeonholed. You didn't have to be a radio host for the rest of your life.
No.
And that's what I'm saying. You got to recognize that.
Yeah.
I don't say you. I mean, you got
Anybody.
to. Everybody. Me. I have to.
Right. There was a lot of denial
but we're
at
wired
first.
that way.
Yeah.
We are wired that way. And so is corporate business.
Yeah.
And that's why some of these businesses that have exploded, because they've done business differently, Apple and, I mean, Costco, and
For some people that can think out of the box, look at how well they've done. I mean, because we've always done it that way is a BS way to live. For sure. And I think, like, to your point about the career thing, you know, like, the career counselors in high school, you know, were like, which path are you going to pick? As if there was only one choice.
I still don't know.
And I hate that concept, because it threw me so far off trying to figure, like, if I make this decision, I'm never going to be able to go back or change, you know, and all sorts of things change in my life. And that's a whole no story for a different day. But
And in my lifetime, that was the case. Literally, in my lifetime, when I was getting out of school, the high school, the idea is that you were you better
punch your ticket for one.
You better pick well, right? Because there weren't those same opportunities there are today. There just weren't.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I do think that, you know, there's courageous steps that were taken, and I think it's awesome that you've, like, stood up for your values and you know, have made those changes. And I would ask, how do you feel about that, like, in terms of where you are now? I mean, do you feel like you can look back at those experiences and say, okay, I grew, I learned, I suffered, I'm sure, but
yeah, I can look back and be grateful for where I am now. 100%. I'm very grateful for the city that I live in now. I really am, because I don't know if things would have happened that quickly if I wasn't here, or if it's certain particular, like working at Mayo Clinic. Well, where else am I going to do that?
Yeah.
Phoenix, Jacksonville, or Rochester.
Yeah.
Right.
One of the, one of the three, but it just happened to be here.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the opportunities that were here. I'm grateful for the mental health care that is here.
Yeah.
I can look back on where I was, and a lot of it is still very hard
Yeah.
for me. I can see, like, wow, why did I go through that for as long as I did? Why did I put myself through what I did?
because you were comfortable in that uncomfortableness,
Yes, exactly.
right?
I don't know. I don't know if it was comfortable, or if it was fear, or if it was.
I think comfort, though, can be defined in you knew it, right?
I think I did.
Knew.
I was in denial.
And
I wanted it to
so
work.
that was
Yeah.
comfortable.
Right.
You knew that industry.
You were comfortable
knew.
with the decision because that's what you knew, but you
Right.
felt differently,
I
right?
thought I want it. I look back on that now as kind of being in a bad relationship. Like I wanted it to work
Yeah.
so bad.
Yes.
And
If
even
I
after,
just do all the extra work
if
for
I
them.
just hang in there, or I went through outpatient therapy, I'm good now. I can go back to work into the same industry, doing the same thing with the same demands, same environment, same things that were bothering me.
Insanity.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
No,
and
you
and
can't.
it took another 2.5 to 3 months out after that until another incident came about in the same culture, and I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I got the message now. This is
Here's
not
your sign.
So did you all notice there's something else that wants to be in the podcast today?
what?
There's a
Well,
Asian beetle flying
Oh
around.
no, I didn't notice.
I like it, I like my house hot.
Oh.
It's warm, and I live in the country. You know, we're in the country here, so we have those out here.
Yeah.
And it was like trying to get in your picture.
I thought you were talking about my child for a minute. I'm like,
No,
man, we're
Zach's
gonna have a
great.
talking to
No,
tonight.
no.
Zach's great. Nah,
No, but
He's
I
gonna be
think like
famous.
the whole, that denial point is so huge because there are so many things that we just don't want to believe about ourselves because it
No.
wasn't in the narrative that we built in our head.
because
But
I'm
the
looking at
denials-
this. I'm paying. I have school loans I'm still paying on.
yeah,
yeah.
For an industry that I
Yeah,
believe
see?
in.
Now
I know.
it's gonna be there.
Now you're here.
right.
In an industry that I was excited about, I was passionate about. I put money, time into
Yeah.
it. Most people don't know it's not a 9 to 5 job, radio.
Yeah.
It's
No,
not.
no.
They don't see what happens behind the scenes. I put all of that into it, and I look at this and I go, man, I am dumb. Am I dumb for investing all of this in that when it didn't even work out? I had a really hard time rectifying that in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And
is
until
super
I
hard.
could sit down and say, no, you know what? You found out that this didn't work. Try a new skill set.
Yeah.
Use your network.
Right.
Flip the script and let's try something different.
That's a big thing to realize, I think, because while a mistake or being dumb or whatever, I mean, I can absolutely understand those emotions, especially when you're still paying, student loans. But more
That was the hard-
importantly,
yeah.
you invested in yourself. It wasn't necessarily just the industry, the job that you invested in.
Right.
You invested in yourself, and all of those things that I think that you've learned, you've turned in to building your own brand, your community, somebody that can be a voice for people that are still in that too nice denial, whatever it is they're dealing with phase, So really all of those skills and tools that you developed and learned
And
still being paid for are being used,
sorry, I
Right.
thought you were done. I'm gonna hit the rewind button a second.
Okay.
And I want to go back to what Beth had said about, Zach's going to be famous. I'm telling you.
He really
He
is.
is going to be famous
He
one
just
day.
really wants to be on camera. I can-
Right.
My husband does not.
You-
He's afraid.
Yeah.
He really
Don't
is.
do
He
it.
hates
Yeah.
pictures.
Yeah. Hi, honey.
I know.
That's what you wanted to say, wasn't it?
Hey.
Denial. You said denial.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think that denial is not on purpose, though, most of the time.
Oh gosh, no.
So I just want to be clear about that. I mean, I think sometimes when people hear that word denial, you think that it's done on purpose, and I think we're just denying it on accident, right? We're not woke.
It's not an
Right.
emotion that it's a choice. For example,
Yeah.
like there are times like, you have like a sliver, that you would ignore. It's like that kind of thing that kind of like builds and you're like, it'll come out eventually or what have
it's
you.
there.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it
Got
happens
it.
a lot with cancer patients where they like feel something's off or something is not sitting right or they feel a lump or whatever. And they're like, nah, it's this, it's that. Like we haven't come to terms with it. That is like a phase, it's rather than a choice, I
Sure.
think,
Yeah.
denial is like a passage that you're going through. Think about like the stages of grief. I mean, that is absolutely one of those stages
Right.
that you go through. And in any hard, traumatic situation, I do feel like most people go through that phase.
It felt like I was mourning the death of that.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
at least the death of that period in my life.
That narrative that you built for yourself, like that is what you
Yeah.
were still hanging on to. And
Yeah. That's why
most
divorce
people-
sucks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because as a kid, you have this idealized vision of mom and dad are
Yep.
superheroes and everything's perfect with them. And then you find out all these things behind the scenes years later whenever the divorce papers are finalized and you
Yeah.
go, how did I miss
Whoa.
this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? like,
Hindsight's 20/20, right?
How
Yeah,
did-
for sure.
what? But it's
Yeah.
the same thing. You're mourning the loss of that.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
So, March 5th is a Thursday. And that evening, we're going to be at Castle Community doing a live audience podcast.
Cool. Okay.
Right? And
Yeah.
we have a musician coming in. And you like music. She does some country. So you like fit in.
Do you hear how he said that?
Right? And, you know, some rock too and different things, but young local artists. So that's really cool.
Yes.
But what I want to do is formally invite you to be there and just, you know, is it shake babies and kiss hands? No. Did I say that wrong again?
Whatever this is, we got to stop. We got to find something new.
Mingle.
But, you know, for
Network.
all intents and purposes, it's, you know, a community style, like the things we've been talking about today, like let's come together, help each other out.
We would love for you to be there.
Yes.
Yeah, sounds fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have, you know, our conversation here, and I hope everyone has had a great time listening to this, but also you put out some great content. Love the authenticity. Woofda.
It's fun.
I have to give it out there. But where can they find you? What you put a lot of work into the content you develop, and I love that.
Well, thank you. I'm glad it looks like it's a lot.
It's a lot of things that I think that you probably think it's no big deal, but most people are like, wait a second.
There's so much that goes on behind the scenes, which is a whole other
for sure.
podcast. But yeah, just use the handle at Val and Vogue.
At Val and Vogue, anywhere.
Anywhere. Twitter, Facebook,
Love
Instagram. Yeah, or valandvogue.com.
I love it. And her posts are so funny. Like, they're entertaining. I mean, so many of them are educational and enlightening. I think, you know, I love the focus on mental health. I think that's huge. But I like that you have a little fun with it because it is a real thing, you know, and sometimes we just have to make fun of ourselves a little bit and say, like,
I'll do that
you
anytime.
know,
But I think that's like...
here's our perception of ourselves or whatever. You had one on there about LinkedIn and
today, everybody's been doing that.
Yeah,
Yes.
LinkedIn, Facebook.
Here's what I look like on LinkedIn. Here's what I look like on Facebook.
I missed it.
And this is what I look like on
Tinder.
Instagram. And this is what I look like on Tinder.
Oh my
Clearly,
gosh,
Gal Gadot.
Yeah, it
On
was
Tinder.
hilarious.
I'm not even on Tinder, but yeah.
But I love it. You have to go check out her page and blog. She's got so much fun content on there, and it's
You have to be able to
just
laugh,
a blast. If you
Yeah.
aren't able to laugh, like life's so boring.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, March 5th, we'll see you there.
Fun.
We're going to open the doors somewhere right around 6:30. Watch for promos for that, and you'll be there to
Rocking it out.
Yeah, have some fun with us. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
man.
Awesome.
thanks.
Thank you so much, Val, for being here. We love it.
Thanks.
That was talking to her. One, it's energetic.
Yes.
Right? Like she's so energetic and uplifting. But then there's those moments that she is sobering and gets real and just bleeds in front of everybody and says, here's what happened. Here's what I learned. And I was in this
So
place.
important.
And it's hard to, she talked about her background and how she was raised and her ethnicity and different things and how they just kind of like, they don't scream at each other, but it might from an outsider's perspective scream
it's
at
all
each
about
other.
perspective, 100%.
Yeah. And I think that's what I learned the most, that maybe not the most, but that's one thing I learned, like how important that really is. Like not to be disrespectful, but that, hey, let's get this hashed out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's get through this. I'm not mad at you forever,
Right.
but, we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
It might get exciting and passionate, as I think we used.
Absolutely. I think she brings out the point that it's like, it's never too late to make a change.
Yeah.
People constantly find themselves unhappy, and
Yeah.
instead of making a change, they just keep going.
Yeah.
And we wonder why we're going crazy. But it's so important to catch yourself at those points and say, you know what? It doesn't have to continue to be this way.
Exactly.
Just because it has. And I think she really challenges the status quo on,
Yeah.
I have to be this way because this is what I committed to. If it's no longer serving you, make a change.
Absolutely.
And I think that's huge.
And we talked about how I think the society that I grew up in certainly was that you got a job, you had a career, you stayed there.
Right.
Like at any cost.
Yeah.
Like you stayed where you were at, happy, unhappy, didn't matter.
Right.
Because there weren't the options there are now. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that we all need to take from that too, is like, if we hustle, we're going to make it.
Yeah.
But don't forget to hustle.
Yeah, it takes action. Like
Yes.
change takes action.
Yes.
There is actual, so much to be learned from taking a step. And that's, part of this courage over comfort is really saying it takes some action to get past that point. But once you do, man, it's so cool.
Exactly.
It's
In
way
fact,
better.
just today, someone told me that she realized that, and I don't have any idea how old she is, but she's older than I am, right? And so she's not 20, in other words. So she gets it.
Yeah.
She said it took her a long time to realize that in order for us to learn and grow, we have to be stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
And even she had the example, and hopefully she's going to be listening, watching, and she gave the example even to trying new foods.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can get so comfortable and into your routines that
Yes.
you don't try any new foods.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, wow, I love trying new foods.
Yeah.
But that's the point is like, yes, we have to put ourselves under a certain amount of pressure, under a certain amount of
Right.
stress to grow, to get out of that comfort zone, be courageous. And that is different for everybody.
It does look different for everyone. And the word change is in the word challenge.
Yes,
It is not easy to change.
exactly.
By any means. It's work, but the rewards can be so much better.
And I just want to officially, and I did in the podcast, but thank Val again. Like that couldn't be easy.
No.
I mean, she went through some really hard things, and she's really made that public.
Yes. Absolutely.
And that is difficult because some of those things, like you can't physically see, and when you see something physically,
Especially on the radio.
right,
Yeah.
when you can see something physically, it's easy to say, yeah, that happened.
Sure.
That was painful. That hurt. But when it's something like the mental health issues, you can't see it. There might be physical effects.
Yeah.
But you can't see it. And when she's able to do that for people, I know it's helping people.
Absolutely.
And so, Val, thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you so much in putting this out there. And, you can check her website out at valandvogue.com. She's got a lot of great tools and resources and hilarious things as well. But really a great advocate for helping people change the stigma around mental health for sure.
Absolutely. And one last thing, just I want to remind people, subscribe.
Yes.
YouTube and Spotify and
Share it
iHeartRadio.
out.
If you like something, share it, because
Yes.
that's really the way that we all learn, right? As we share.
Absolutely. I
And-
love when people suggest things that
Yeah.
they think that I might like personally or just in general. If they like it, I might.
Right, exactly. Absolutely. And to our sponsors.
Yes, absolutely.
We have an anonymous sponsor. They just say, hey, we believe in what you're doing.
That's so
And,
great.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And then our obvious, each episode, we have different sponsorships. So if you have a moment, just go to that sponsor and say, hey, we listen. We're going to come see you.
Yes.
Things like that. That would be great.
I love that.
Yeah. See you next time.
Great. Thanks.